Right, the video today is around Izanagi's burden. Obviously, there's the picture of it, but it's all around stacking some damage buffs and getting an absolutely massive, and I ain't joking you, massive damage increase. And I'm going to be focusing it around overcharged weapons. It's a new thing that I brought in this season. So it's all about something called kinetic surges. So your kinetic weapons do increase damage when your subclass element matches an active surge. Now these are active in Lost Sectors, Legend Master, and even in Master Dungeons when they're around in rotation. I believe they're also going to be in Master Raids, and obviously for GMs when they come around also. Now, Izanagi's burden is obviously a kinetic weapon. It goes in our kinetic slot, and it already hits like an absolute train anyway with the Horned Edge, so we're going to be taking advantage of that. We're going to be taking advantage of the Disruption Break, which is a 50% damage increase on top of the Overcharge modifier in the Master content that we've already discussed. Now what I'm going to do, the first Lost Sector that I tried this in, I went in there that I didn't have the correct subclass on to get the Overcharge for my Izanagis. I went in there on a solar subclass. It is Void and Strand, and I'm all in solar subclass just to check the numbers. So 90,000 with a Horned Edge, and I'm going to apply something called a Disruption Break. Now watch what happens to that number, 90k to 136. That is a 50% damage buff. That is from Disruption Break, but obviously as we go into it you're going to see some even more increases because I'm going to be stacking the correct overcharge elements as well. I have covered Disruption Break plenty on this channel. It works against anti-barrier champions as long as you break the shield with the corresponding weapon. This season is anti-barrier pulse rifles and anti-barrier sidearms, so if you've got one of them weapons with Disruption Break on, you're going to get a 50% damage increase for you and your team for your primary weapon. Izanagi's is one of the best ones to run. A 50% damage increase on Izanagi's is absolutely crazy. And like I said, the seasonal perks this season are anti-barrier pulse and anti-barrier sidearm. So if you've got any of them weapons with Disruption Break on, I suggest you try running them for breaking anti-barrier shields. Now the second Lost Sector, I went in and I used the correct subclass to match the Overcharge. It was Strand and Void, so I ran a Strand subclass, and you're going to see some increases from the original clip. 90k all the way up to 112, that's 25%, and now I'm going to apply that Disruption Break and get an even bigger number, up to 168. Now going back to the very first clip that you saw where I wasn't on the correct subclass, 90k, and again break the shield 50%, and it goes up to 136,000. So basically what we've got the 25% extra damage for running the Overcharge element to get the extra damage on our kinetic weapon. And on top of that we've got the 50% Disruption Break. So we could even go a little bit further than that as well if you wish. You can stack 3 kinetic weapon surges. 3 of these bad boys equals 22%. So we're going to have 22% kinetic weapon surge, 25% for having the overcharge weapon, and we're also going to be getting a 50% damage increase on our Izanagis from Disruption Break, all stacking together to create one big, huge, massive damage increase. You'll notice there I've got my armor charge stacked at 137,000. Disruption Break, everything stacked that we said. Are you ready for it? Let's see what we get. 205,000. Absolutely massive damage increase. It's absolutely nuts, honestly. This could potentially one bang barrier champions in GM level. So I'm just going to go over the buffs one more time. We've got the Overcharge weapon buff, which is 25%. We've got the Disruption Break, which is a 50%, and on top of that we're stacking 3 kinetic surges for an extra 22% damage. And you'll see the damage increase there. It's like 131% from the very first shot all the way up to the final shot of 205,000. So it's absolutely crazy, 131% damage increase. Now another thing I need to test if this also stacks inside of a Well of Radiance. Disruption Break should stack inside of a Well of Radiance as it is classed as a debuff. Another thing to consider as well is debuff options, Void subclasses. That could also go on top of this. Things like Tractor Cannon, Lamina buff, everything like that. It's all going to get tested before GM, so stay tuned. I will do all this testing. I hope this video was helpful. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a great night, great day, and a great weekend.